Welcome to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This podcast is made from the spaces I host every week on the Clubhouse app in the Social Impact Level Up Club. If you don't know me, I'm Wendy V, and I am a coach for socially conscious entrepreneurs. I help you develop your social impact mission, clarify your vision, and turn your ideas into action. Every week, I talk to leaders with a social impact mission about money mindset and manifestation. We also hold weekly spaces for our collective to join forces and change the world. In each episode, you'll hear me moderate the conversation with my two co-hosts, Rodrigo Bravo and Santiago Cáceres. Through this podcast, we hope that you will learn, grow, and thrive with our collective. Now, here's a little bit more about this episode. This episode is all about living your vision. We're talking about how you can recognize the moments when you are living your vision, how you adapt and keep growing, how to set priorities and work through obstacles, making sure that your environment keeps you accountable, getting in flow, understanding your role in your vision, and surrounding yourself with like-minded and like-hearted people. I hope you enjoy this conversation with a few of our community members, Jeff, Tiffany, and Kurt. When you are in a flow state, you sometimes don't realize what's going on because you're just sort of there and you're doing your thing, and it just feels like you're doing your thing, right? It seems somewhat natural. It's you're able to pull past experiences, past stories, past connections. All those things are available to you, but you just don't realize that you're really kind of drawing on a lot of different skills, a lot of different resources in your toolbox. And a lot of the time, when that's happening, you're kind of just doing your thing, and you don't realize that, oh, hey, this is part of my vision. And I think that living your vision has different, it looks different. A lot of different times there's parts where you're like, yeah, this is how I want to be living my life. Like, woohoo, I, got an extra zero in my bank account. Like, this is good. Whatever those tangible moments are, that's when it's like, okay, yeah, of course. Like, I'm excited about this collaboration, or I'm excited about this brand partnership, or I'm excited about this whatever that I've been trying to manifest, and this was part of my vision, part of my vision board, part of my whatever, and now it's here, right? And you kind of like, oh, it's arrived. But then there's those moments like this morning or like last night I was talking about earlier, y'all, you guys missed it. My crew's gonna laugh. I got stuck talking marketing with a neighbor for like 3 hours, or till like 3 a.m. last night. And but it was a very like flow state sort of conversation, and I think all of these moments I had realized, like, oh, at some point I didn't think that people would want to talk about these things, right? Like, I thought, oh, social entrepreneurship is not going to be a topic people are going to be really into. But now that I've had a couple opportunities to really be able to hold space or talk to folks or have these 15-minute discovery calls and do a couple of our pilot sessions, what I'm seeing is that my vision to create this was accurate. Like, I think I had a good vision. And I think my faith in creating this space and these kind of conversations was in the right place, but I haven't always given myself credit for what I'm kind of manifesting or how I'm creating this vision. And so I think what I wanted to talk about, at least today, is lately. So in your visioning work, in your life, in your whatever you're doing lately, um, how have you been shown that you're living your vision? And so the last time this happened, Rodrigo and I both mentioned this, like before that, like I just was able to get up and go to Denver, and then I was able to get up and go to LA for 3 weeks. And that's part of my building my business, my vision of being able to travel and work at the same time, and enjoy my life and travel and work, or not work and just enjoy my life, like whatever I want to do. And when that happened last time, it was really easy to be like, aha, this is part of my vision. But I think the work part, where I'm satisfied in the work that I'm doing now as an entrepreneur, has been a little less identifiable because I just feel like I'm constantly working, right? I'm like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. But I sometimes don't give myself credit for where I'm at in my vision of entrepreneurship. And that is, I think, something really powerful that I've been learning is like, aha, when I do get these confirmations that I'm on the right road as an entrepreneur, I need to stop and, one, thank myself, to be proud of myself and allow myself to be proud, and then also be able to be kind of connect it back to that larger vision and give myself the push to keep going and keep pushing to the edges of that vision, right? So where am I going to go from here? And when I was talking about it this morning in the imposter syndrome room, the way that I connect it with imposter syndrome is like, well, what is the next best step? Like, where is my next step in my vision, and how am I going to move forward to the next best step?
Yeah, I'll say this. A lot of times when it comes to living your vision, it can be difficult, right? Because we're not where we want to be at. And you always hear the phrase, fake it till you make it. And, and I kind of subscribed to that for a while, right? Fake it till you make it, but there's some implications there, imposter syndrome or not being your authentic self. Excuse me. So I heard something else. I definitely didn't make this up, but I heard somewhere else where they said, see it till you'll be it. And so basically you just focus on the vision, you focus on the long-term aspects of that vision. For myself, for example, I want to be at a spot where I can just do whatever I want. I feel like I'm there kind of, but I still have to take certain things into account. But I want to be there, so I just keep taking long-term road, and seeing what I have to do in order to get to that particular position. And then the other thing too is, making sure that when we see our vision, that we implement it. You can't just, go ahead and just live in your vision and kind of do, this and that. Right now, I'm currently working on a framework for creating these modules that I want to create, that includes video work and this and that for the courses that I want to provide. There's a lot of legwork behind that, right? And so you got to keep doing it every day. Okay, I'm working on this today. I'm working on that today, while at the same time still doing your business, whether it's clients, whether it's a meeting with somebody. In my regards, with mediation or sorry, child consultancy and coaching. I think a lot of times when it comes to living your vision, sometimes we do get kind of hamper ourselves because we don't see the entire vision. We may only see portions of that. But I think those are the motivators, for example. Like, so when you were talking about your trip to Denver, right? You just kind of took that on the whim. You just, hey, you know what? I want to go. You know, that may not be like 100% where you want to be at, like, what you want to be in the future, but it's definitely indicative of what you want to attain in the future. And I think those little moments are great motivators for ourselves, for our own lives, and making sure that we still see it until we be it. So when you see those moments that kind of demonstrate what you want to see, what you want to be, those are fantastic opportunities to reflect on and say, hey, I'm getting there. I'm gonna get to that point, and to that point where I'm going to be able to do, whatever your goals are, right? So again, your goal is to kind of have the freedom of doing what you want, and we discussed that, right? The gift and the curse in one of the previous social impact level up club rooms that we had. I think that's really important to make sure that we keep continuing to do that, because if we don't, we can get mired in the whole everyday things, the mundane things, the more transactional procedural items that maybe we don't like to do. And I think that's really important. Living your vision is part of that, making sure that even when you don't see it completely, that you see the portions that are manifesting themselves already, and make sure you take those and grow those and use those as inspiration to further continue along your trajectory when it comes to your business. My name is Rodrigo. I'm done sharing.
Yes, yes, all the things, Jeff.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's spot on, Rodrigo. I love how you talk about especially the day to day, the mundane things. But I just really think that's want to give you props on that. I totally agree with that. I think the important thing, at least for me, for living your vision, is setting milestones for yourself. Like Rodrigo said, when you're implementing it, that's really important. And then when you get in those day to day things, keep reminding yourself of that vision, whether you have some affirmations or whether you have a group of, like, of a tribe. And I'm going to say here, a tribe here, that they can help you at least provide some type of accountability, because that's going to be key, at least for me, is accountability. Whether I'm meeting with business mentors over the weekend, that's how I spend my weekends. I don't recommend for everybody, but at least for me, especially when you're passionate about something, It's important to at least have that vision in mind and set some milestone dates for that, meaning by scheduling it, because it gets a little more concrete when you write it down, either on a notebook or in some, on a whiteboard or something. At least you can write it down and make it visible so you can see it every day. If you just have your vision board and then it's like freaking in the corner of your place and you see it like once every year, you know when those mundane procedural things that Rodrigo's talking about, it's going to be hard to kind of remind yourself, like, why are you doing this, like why are you doing what you're doing. So you need those constant reminders, you need those accountability buddies to surround yourself with, and don't give up, don't quit, and then use a Sunday or a Saturday to reflect on that, right? Set those daily, weekly goals, prioritize, execute, and get it done. And so, but there are times, there are up and downs, at least for me, it's like, oh, I'm going to launch a business this year, and I'm gonna do it at this amount of time, and I have a global distributed team, and we're going to get it done. Well, we're doing a lot to get done, but there are times where you just those unexpected curveballs that you encounter, and you have to figure out, like, okay, that's going to push the schedule to the right a bit. Okay, can I live with this? Can I not live with this? Do I need to go overseas and go talk to a team in person? Um, and so you have to figure out how to adapt and overcome. That's something we use in the military a lot, because there's nothing is a straight line. It's not. There's no straight line at all. It's all up and down. And so to me, the best refreshing thing is just continuing to remind yourself why you're doing it. Every single day. Look at your goals every single day and have those affirmations, and have a tribe like this that's supportive, where you guys can support one another and better one another. So this is Jeff, and I'm done speaking.
Yes. Oh, go ahead,
Before I
Rodrigo.
hand it off back to you, Wendy, I just wanted to say, Jeff, you're absolutely right about that. I was at a friend's house one time, and why was her vision board in her closet on the floor to the side? It just didn't make sense, right? And I mean, obviously, I didn't approach it that way towards her, right? But it just shows that, yeah, you can have a vision board, you can have this, but you got to have daily reminders. You got to put that vision board somewhere you can see it. You got to make sure, again, you got to see it till you be it. And some of the, it could be a physical form, it could be a mental note, whatever the case may be. Whatever you need to make sure that you keep, not only just envisioning it, but living it. And I think you make a great point, Jeffrey, when it comes to that. Make sure that you don't just have a vision board. Yes, have the vision board. Make sure it's there, this and that, but also other visual reminders, mental notes, check marks, lists, all this stuff that all contributes, and it's really part of that whole manifestation that we're looking for when it comes to living your vision. So great points that you just added there, Jeffrey. I want to welcome Santiago to the stage before I kick it back off to Wendy.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Kathy.
thank you. And a good book is by David Goggins. If you guys know who that is, he definitely talked about those reminders, Rodrigo. So I appreciate the kudos on that. But definitely may recommend you guys pick up his book. He talks about making those notes, on your places where you're in your room or your apartment, especially like the bathroom, when you're brushing your teeth, you have a little sticky there. You're constantly uh, programming yourself in that sense. So this is Jefferson speaking.
I love that, Jeffrey. You reminded me my vision board's in the trunk of my car because I moved recently and never brought it out. And I was like, I need to go get that. But also in this conversation, reminding me to check off what has accomplished, and um, keeping track of that, because then you're living your vision, you're on the right path. And that's something I'm going to do today, is get out my vision board and revision my life, because I know I've actually already accomplished some of the things on it, and it came faster than I realized. And I think that's why I'm in a place of like, now what? Because that happened and I didn't vision far enough, I think, is what the issue is.
I think that the vision board thing is important, and we don't always realize what the symbolism is of putting it somewhere. Because when Jeff said that, I was just shaking my head at myself over here on the side of the phone, like, damn it. I realize in retrospect that I did not spend as much time with my vision in 2020, like a lot of people didn't. I kind of like put everything on hold with my business, but I didn't realize that I also symbolically had put my vision board in the back of the closet. And it's so funny that
No.
yeah, yeah. And I'm realizing it after the fact now that I was like, no wonder nothing happened on it for an entire year, because it wasn't until I moved and I put it back out in one of my working spaces. It's not the main working space, but it's one of my working spaces. And it's funny now, it's like actually out, but yeah, no, I literally did that, and I'm sure that had something to do with me being off any kind of vision for all of 2020 related to my business, because I was working on COVID, but yeah, no, it's interesting to hear other folks, having that same thing. And one of the reasons why I wanted to put in my accelerator program a visioning portion of the work was because I wanted people to really be able to transpose the vision into what they were going to do. So if you're just like literally going straight to planning and putting your plan together, you sometimes forget to connect things to your why. And I think what really grounding yourself in your vision is that connection to your why. And when you're living in your vision, one of the reasons why it feels so good and you get like sort of reinforced by that when you recognize it is because you're coming closer to like living for your why, for your purpose. And so it does reinforce it when you're able to feel good about it and celebrate it, but you just have to take the time to actually make that connection.
One thing I started doing with a colleague of mine is that we're both very similar. That sometimes we get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that we do. So every morning at 8:15 in the morning, what we do is we have a conversation, just us two, and we look at our list and we take the top three things that we have to get accomplished today, and then we do like a mid-afternoon check-in, like at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Like, hey, how's it going, how did you get sidetracked with anything? And we kind of just like nudge each other, and then in the evening we have another conversation, and to just be like, hey, it's okay if you don't get like the last thing done on your sheet, because it took 5 6 phone calls to get it done. It's fine. Let's just knock it out tomorrow. And I think that instead of in our own mental trash, beat ourselves up, I think having that encouragement from somebody that is kind of like you're equal, and you have so much in common, definitely helps out, because you're like, man, this person, this mentor, or this boss is gonna come down on me for not doing this, and what the hell do they know? They're not living in my shoes. But if you find somebody that you have a lot in common with and kind of just supports you, this way you kind of like hold each other accountable, grow together, and at the same time, you could take that criticism a little bit more, because they know exactly what you're going through. And I think that helps a lot. And I think that a lot of times that people, they fail to live up to their own expectation, that expectation of others, is because they have so many different voices telling them different things, that they get hard-headed, and they're like, what the hell does this person know about what I'm going through right now? I'm living in my own head, in my own space. And that's where the mental trash happens. But you find that one person that you guys have a lot in common, you could hold each other accountable, and kind of just keep each other on track. So I think that's where I'm at today. That's gonna help me live my vision, because I have a lot planned. However, sometimes it could just get a little bit overwhelming, because myself, I have a family, I have obligations, I have a side business, I have my career. I just started this new position helping my friend out here at his legislative office. So it could get a little crazy sometimes, but accountability.
I love that. I love it. And I'm speaking of accountability, Kurt, I'm going to invite you up because Kurt's all about this stuff. So we're definitely speaking your language. Feel free to come up and drop some knowledge.
Hey,
Um,
Wendy, is it okay if I add on to Santiago? I love what he
yeah,
said.
yeah.
So, Santiago, I think you're spot on, especially on the priorities. I mean, that is something that needs to be dialed in from that perspective, because a lot of times there's if you have like 10 priorities for the day, let's be realistic, how many of those are going to get done, right? And how many of those are going to, and those align with what your vision is and what your goals are, right? So if it's not moving your business forward, if it's not making you any money, sometimes, we mistake a priority for busy work. It's an activity. Should you be the one doing it? Can you delegate it, right? If you have a team, if you have that capacity to be able to do that, that's something that's very important. Obviously, if you're in startup mode and you might not be able to delegate that capacity by the day, but you got to figure out what's going to move, what's going to make you touchdown. Inches is important too, but it's important when you prioritize the day, you execute things that are going to move, that are going to move the pylons forward. I think that's totally spot on. And then when you talk about accountability and making sure you're around the environment, I think that's super important as well, because it's important what you listen to, who you listen to, what you're reading, and what you're not reading. And so having that tribe, having that environment, creating that environment for yourself is super, super important. Before the military, uh, you know, growing up in a rough neighborhood, it's there's a lot of Johnny on the block because we were still in the military. And so sometimes folks that get out of the military, they go back to Johnny on the block. And that's something you need to think about when you surround yourself with the right people and the right network. And so being in a group like this is incredible, and I'm super grateful for that and to be able to learn from one another. But I think your environment is super important, and you have to have a way to shape that. So
We're talking about how do you know when you're living your vision, and if people have examples recently of times when they've recognized that they are living their vision, or if you have ideas of what are your next best steps. So one of the things Rodrigo was talking about was these courses and things that he's creating, modules and other things, and taking those daily actions that are going to get you to the end goal. And that's kind of what Jeffrey was just saying right now too, that you don't always have like the complete vision, but that you kind of are seeing the parts. And one of the things I've noticed with a lot of this manifesting kind of work, living in your vision, is sometimes, and I said this to Rodrigo before about the whole Denver trip, when you're trying to force something, some component of what you're creating, you put more energy out to get it done than you need to. And if you are forcing yourself to do it in a way or a time or a space that is not the natural fit, it'll take you more effort to get it out. And so when you're doing those like actions to move you towards your vision, the other thing you have to recognize is that there are times when you need to actually not do the action, which seems like ridiculous, because when I started learning this from my coach, I was like, "What's she talking about, Willis? Like that doesn't make any sense. How does not taking action get me closer to my vision? Like that just sounds backwards." But in reality, the receiving end of this is really important, and so being able to not only receive inspiration from wherever you get inspiration from, but also your ability to just receive from yourself the information and the thing that needs to come out. And so, in some ways, it's kind of like having this conversation with yourself of when is the time. And sometimes we by other, for other reasons, we get pushed for the time to be now. Sometimes if you do have space to sit with yourself and say, is right now the time? And or am I feeling this imposter syndrome? Am I feeling some sort of way about this? Because right now is not the time. And if I sit a little longer and allow myself to receive when I'm supposed to receive, will my effort be better channeled? And I think that part of that whole mix of getting to your vision is sometimes we push too hard, like we're like forcing it. And I know from when I was young and I was in my 20s, like people always would describe me as a hard charger. Like that was like the word that people would use. And it took me a long time to realize that you can still get to your goal without being hard about how you get there. And that is part of the flow sort of lifestyle, right? Like that you're not pushing against the flow, but you're allowing it to carry you forward into the place you want to be. And I think that that is a big part of the conversation, is how do we get out of our own way, stop being our barrier of, strength basically, and really allow ourselves to be carried towards our vision, recognizing that we are incrementally getting closer and at the same time helping ourselves get closer. So that is, I think, what this whole thing reminds me of is that there's not always a way to get there faster, but sometimes it's about getting there when you're supposed to get there.
Wendy, I love that, especially the hard charger part. I don't think that is something that will ever die in me. I think that that would be like my last dying breath of being a hard charger. So, but I do want to talk about like I think it's so. I think it's important what you were talking about, especially when it comes to taking all these actions and figuring out like, oh yeah, I'm moving the ball forward. But I think it sounds like what you're talking about is being more strategic in your decision making, right? And as far as planning out your vision and make sure your time and effort is focused on the right things. So that to me sounds like focus. And to me that sounds like you need to be in alignment holistically with your vision, your goals, and then how you're going to get there, and then figure out how to eliminate that noise. Right? There's always going to be that noise, those external factors they're going to try to disguise themselves as something that's important, but it's not really important. You need to find a way to eliminate that, right, and build new habits. So that's what comes to mind when you're talking about. So I appreciate the insight on that.
Yeah, I love it. Love it.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on another thing that you mentioned, but also on the inverse of that. So you said about going with the flow, and I'm a firm believer in that. You need to go where your path is taking you, right? And without getting into the spiritual side of things, or things like that, it's just there's a natural inclination to go one direction or the other. But I think it's also important to note when things are not in your trajectory, and they become more obstacles. And really, really important to make sure that we understand what our role is when it comes to our living our vision. So, for example, if you're a creative, right? You're doing things, you're making this, you're doing that, you're writing this and that. We got to realize that at some point we probably need to let go of certain things that are going to hold us back, right? And I'm saying this specifically for one person in the room, just not going to lie, right? So when you're creative, your job is to be creative, to create things, to make things, to be inspirational, to take that vision that you have and create things out of it so that other people can enjoy. When we have these obstacles, logistics, planning, marketing, whatever the case may be, we need to offload those. That's not part of our vision. Our vision, if you're creative, is to create things. Now let's say you're not creative. Let's say you're supposed to be, I don't know, an accountant, right? Okay, your job is to count things and to do this and do that. Don't burden yourself with the marketing aspect of it. I understand people, you're going to save some money at the beginning, right? When you're first starting out, you're going to try to do things all on your own, right? And that's great. I totally get that. I'm a DIY myself. But at some point, once you get the ball rolling, you got to realize, okay, some of these things are not in my wheelhouse. I don't need to be, I don't need to be investing the time because this is not part of living my vision. So, for example, for me, my why is to help kids. That's the bottom line. I want children to have healthy lives, and by helping their parents, I hope that trickles down to them. So my goal at all times is to help the parents co-parent. When it comes to mediation, my thing is to make sure that everybody feels like they got a fair shake at the deal that's being taken place right now. Marketing, branding, emails, all that stuff. I'm doing all that right now. But I know that as soon as I get to a certain point, I'm going to offload all that stuff because that's getting in the way of my vision. That's getting in my way of living my vision. So not only do we have to recognize when things are going with the flow, we also have to recognize when things are going to try to stop our flow and that they're not part of our vision. They're a means to an end, and we got to do them at some point. Understood. But at some point, you got to let them go because they are actually inhibiting, they are actually becoming obstacles to your vision and now allowing you to live your vision 100%.
To me, it sounds like when you're building your team, when you get to a point of capacity, being able to delegate those to the subject matter experts, right? Do I code? No, no. I took a basic programming class, and I think I barely got a passing C for that, right? I'm not on the coding side at all. I'm focused on the business itself, and there was a book I read, and he gave a great example of focusing on the vitals for yourself and your business, right? What you do the best, and that's something you should be able to double down in. And I think he gave the example of doctors. If when you're going into the ER room and the first thing they do is they check your vitals, right? Your heart rate or whatever the things to keep your body alive. Now, if you have like a superficial wound, you got a bone sticking out, depending on how bad it is. But if it's not bad, if it's more of a superficial wound, then that's not really the priority. The priority is to make sure to keep you alive first, and then focus on the other items that should be you do need to get to, or you can give that over to somebody else. So this is Jeff Madden speaking.
Oh yeah, no, I feel this so much because I think but beyond me, there are the people in this room who do need to get uh more flexibility to just focus on the things that they need to focus on, right? Like where are your strengths? What are you doing in your business? What is parts of your vision are you best at? And what are the other things that are just maybe necessary, but not necessary that you do it? And I think that that's a really good point, Rodrigo. So thank you for bringing that up. And I think that gets always back to the conversation about letting go of things that don't serve you. But I think before you even get there, you have to get to the point of recognizing that those things don't help, or those things are obstacles and are holding you back from getting to your vision. So, being honest with yourself about your own capabilities and your time is difficult. I think sometimes we do think, oh, well, I've always worked faster than other people. I've always been more efficient, or whatever the case is for you. And when you go to do the things, it's impossible for everyone to do everything. I mean, I am like, all of those are really, really great points. And I think that, you know, the one thing that is also going to stick with me with what Kurt said too is, what can I do better next time? And I feel like that connects back to this letting go situation, because a lot of the time we first get the inkling that we're maybe having overwhelm or not able to do everything because we do something badly. Like we either think we made a mistake, or we didn't execute as high quality of something that we thought we wanted to, or we didn't put out something that we were proud of. And then it kind of gets to this questioning yourself. And am I living my vision? Am I doing the thing I want to do? Am I all these other things? But I think that allowing yourself to ask the question, what do I do better next time, really gives yourself the space to be okay with saying, next time, the thing I need to do better is not do this. I need to give it to somebody else because I didn't like the outcome, and the outcome didn't make me feel the way I wanted it to feel. And so let's not do that to myself again. And even if it's not for overwhelm's sake, it also could just be for your brain space sake of not having yourself think that you were bad at something, or that you failed at something, or you didn't do something the right way, but really allowing yourself to say, okay, but the better way to do this is to let somebody else do it.
To comment on something Rodrigo said that I was thinking about. Sorry, I was on my bike. um, Knowing what your position is in the company and being at that part at best. Like, I know that I'm the visionary for my nonprofit. I'm the one that, a lot of people don't understand what's going on in Haiti. They understand the need for water. They kind of know, but when I'm talking to people here in the States, I have to translate that in a way that actually will move their heart to really understand something they can't visually see and they can't experience. And I have to bring that from my experience here to there to move them to react. Um, and when I mentioned things were happening for me, like people were coming to me, I think that's when I was in the flow and I didn't recognize it. And that's what happened, where like the imposter syndrome kicked in for me, because people, when they ask me now, like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm working on sustainable housing in Haiti. I just built a well. I just started this nonprofit. And it all happened so fast that there's even contacts that I have not contacted. I think I'm beginning to stand in my way, is what's happening.
Ooh, yes, I'm beginning to stand in my way. That is such a powerful statement. And it's easy to lose control over things like this. This is funny because this is exactly what I was talking to my neighbor about last night for like hours and hours, is the contacts that you make and the ways that you build your network. And when you're an entrepreneur, the ways that you kind of collect people, right? And you, at this point, especially with the way that I'm building my business, I'm not only collecting people, I'm collecting people and their mission, right? And so to me, what matters is that I actually know that Tiffany is building wells in Haiti. And so when people ask me, oh, well, do you know anyone doing work in Haiti? I immediately like, yes, I know this person and I can verify that they're a good person and that you would be interested in what they're doing. So here's the information. So I always tell people one of my roles is being a connector, people, places, and information. And that's how I have built my network. But I think when I recognize sometimes that my network is building too quickly, it gets away from me. And the other weird thing is my network is really always part of my vision, because somehow or another, there's something in my vision that I don't quite have access to. And someone will pop in from somewhere, and they usually will have a tip, a tool, something that I need at the moment to get closer to my vision. And so sometimes when I'm overwhelmed with people, I actually let myself sit and just who comes to mind is the person I'm supposed to contact. So if I'm sitting down and I've been thinking about the education space, and one of my old mentors who used to be like really high up in the Department of Education comes to mind all the time. But if it's not him, it might be like one of 50 other people. But whoever in that group for that purpose that comes to mind, I take it as that's the person I'm supposed to spend the energy to make sure I chase down. So I don't know, Tiffany, if there's a way when you're thinking about going back to those contacts, if you can sit for a moment and just feel out which ones are most memorable to you and start there. That way it seems like you're taking the action, but it's not overwhelming.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I just started thinking about someone I kind of should have reached out to a month ago when she first reached out to me. And I just need to sit and do what you said, like reevaluate where I am and, you know, revision and stay with the flow and accept it, I think is what I need to do.
I was just going to say, I had a question for Tiffany. Do you ever get around other peoples that have the same goal as you, or as far as the same? I heard Haiti, and again, I was picking up my dog, but and I know that I think that you were working for nonprofit for that to help do things in Haiti. Do you ever get around other like-minded people that are driving towards that force to help, like maybe, I don't know, just kind of mastermind type thing?
Um, so I started my own nonprofit, and I work with some missionaries in Haiti uh, from doing. Well, so I've been going to Haiti for like the last 4 years, and that's how I ended up starting mine, like just where my heart brought me to. I haven't been able to, and I haven't been able to meet many people to do exactly what you're saying, and that's what I need to do because my circle of friends or help right now, they love what I'm doing, but they're not in the same heart space, and I think that's where it makes it a little bit harder. Like I said, this has been a dream or mission of mine for years, but I just started it and it's happening really fast. Like once I was like, okay, yes, I'm doing this, I had the money within weeks to build my first well and was able to get it done so fast. And now I have another project in hand while I'm still getting all the paperwork together for my nonprofit. So it's a lot, but that's a great idea. I do need to start reaching out. Like some of the contacts that I mentioned, I didn't follow up with, are people just like that. People like doing stuff in Haiti already. But my imposter syndrome is like, you're so small. Like, why would you talk to these people that have been doing it for years and you're just starting off? Which has made me intimidated to actually reach.
One of the reasons I asked is one of my really good friends has started a nonprofit for Haiti as well. And I never, like, I'm looking, okay. And she has a storefront where they actually, all the things that they sell are handmade from Haiti. And I don't know what exactly their mission is, but I'll definitely connect them that way, or I'll send you like their Instagram and all that, and they're super kind people, just like you. I'm pretty sure everybody that gets in that space is probably the same heart center type thing. So um, you might be able to help answer questions for them, and they may be able to do the same thing for you. But anyway, I'll shoot you a message with their Instagram.
Okay, awesome. That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and Tiffany, if you need us to sit down and sort through those people, like we can book one of the discovery calls again and like go through what you're going through to like figure out what your tactic needs to be. But I think it is what you're seeing is that the universe is like definitely bringing you people. So there's somewhere in these people your answer.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll reach out to
I also love what Tiffany said about like-minded people and like-hearted people. I've always heard that growing up. Make sure you surround yourself with like-minded people, and make sure and I get that. I understand the need. When I discovered the term like-hearted people, that completely changed my mindset. And that's really where I really try to focus on people who are like-hearted, who have the same goals as I do, that have the same compassion or are working towards that. So I think that's a great step that you've already tackled, Tiffany, because sometimes we do get kind of mired in the whole like-minded, like, okay, what position is this, what position is that, this and that, and instead, maybe focus on the like-hearted, and you're already doing that. And I think that's good things happen to good people, and the fact that you're thinking that way, now you're connected with Jeffrey, maybe that'll lead to something. That's just the way it goes for like-hearted people. So just wanted to commend you for that, and I wanted to also elevate that statement because I think it deserves some shine. I love finding like-hearted people.
Now that you've joined our community by listening to this podcast episode, I want to welcome you to participate in a conversation with our collective very soon. If you're not on the Clubhouse app, you can connect to me on any social media platform as Wendy Veloz, Veloz. I'd like to thank everyone in our community who participated in this episode, and especially my partners in crime, Santiago and Rodrigo. Until next episode, keep changing the world.